The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
On today's episode of Locked On Canucks, we'll be talking about the question, right? Did Trevor Beggs riot in 2011? And did he steal a box of condoms from London Drugs? More on that in 5 minutes.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, you know what? Don't be silly. Wrap your willy, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer since 2013, currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into this painful trip down memory lane, looking at the recently released Vancouver Riot doc, and it was fascinating to watch. But hey, before we get into it, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, because guess what? It is your Canucks every damn day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, before we get started, got to shout out our friends over at FanDuel. They're up in this baby, okay? At FanDuel, you make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right, not $150, but $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. The Vancouver Canucks got started on a wonderful run to the Stanley Cup Finals in April of 2011, and it ended with one of the most my most painful memories as a fan of this hockey team. Let's get into it, because these memories have been brought back to the forefront with the recently released "I'm Just Here for the Riot" documentary. I think we want to go back in the time machine, look at some of the things that were said, maybe some critiques of the doc, talk about what we liked, and talk about our memories of that day, June 15th, 2011. Before we get into it, I got to shout out my co-host, Kyle Bowen. He did not steal any condoms from London Drugs during the riots, but what did you steal, buddy?
Okay, back. Oh, can you hear me? Is my mic in?
I can hear you. Yeah, we're
Okay,
here.
so back in the day, the only thing I stole in my thing called my life, is pistachio nuts from Superstore every now and then, okay? You know how they used to sell them in bulk to the public? Boom, bam, in the middle of Superstore, stupid store, okay? As I called it way back in the day. That's the only thing I stole in this thing called my life. Anyways, Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks, going back to 2011, thinking about it, and yeah, just feeling it, because we watched a pretty well-produced documentary on something so important, not only to Canucks fans, but people who live in the city. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about you, Trevor. I know you watched it on Friday with your girl. I watched it alone last night at 10 o'clock. But man, oh man, I got emotional. It felt like a mix between a horror movie and just something, again, very sentimental, very heartbreaking, because it was your people doing that. And Trevor, we're going to get to this throughout the conversation today. But man, oh man, it low-key made me smile hearing Canucks fans talk about how they were turned on to the rioting, because you've been saying it for days and days and weeks and years and years. Canucks fans didn't riot. They didn't start the riot. It was other people. It was the professional rioters, right? Who came down via Craigslist. Anyways, a lot going on, a lot to talk about, a lot of feelings. I have a little bit of an itinerary, but the first one I got to ask off this itinerary is just a simple question. Like, how did it feel watching that, especially with your wife, who may have gotten to know you a bit more through watching that documentary, right? Because it's everything Vancouver Canucks in a way.
Well, so here's the ironic thing about watching with my wife. I mean, yeah, I know you want to make jokes about me stealing condoms. I was not downtown for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. I was a diehard Canucks fan that was sentimental. You know, I really wanted to watch the Canucks win a cup with my dad. Like, I didn't give a rat's ass about being downtown with the people. Like, I did that for a couple other games in 2011, but for Game 7 specifically, I wanted to be at home. I wanted to celebrate a cup win with my dad. Like, I still get emotional thinking about it. You know, my dad's in his 70s. He's never seen a cup win. But anyways, so I wasn't down there for it. But ironically, my wife was down there for it. She lived in BC back at the time.
What?
So, yeah. So we were checking, looking for the clips to see Hannah down there, and just for her, it you talk about being a bit of a horror movie, and it really brought back don't want to say traumatic memories, but it, like some scary memories for her. Like she remembers just like stampedes of people as like cops were trying to clear
Yeah.
people out. She remembers hearing like the bang, seeing the smoke, seeing the fires, you know.
Seeing the fights.
Yeah, I don't know if she specifically saw any fights, but like that stuff was crazy to see. Like the clip with I believe his name was Robert, if I'm not mistaken, where he tried to stop people from smashing windows and he just got like swarmed at the curb. I mean, it was a really interesting look at how people can get swept up in mob mentality. And
Mhm.
I never really thought about it at the time as it being the first, smartphone riot.
Mhm.
But that to me was another thing that really kind of, brought my piqued my curiosity, because I think about it, like I just got a cell phone like in 2010,
Yeah.
maybe early 2011. It was a different time for sure.
No, 100% on everything that you just said, and I kinda feel for your wife for having to go through that because it sticks with you, you know? And I can only imagine for level-minded people how scary that was. Real talk. And you brought up a couple things, which is making me think a lot, okay? So the whole thing again, I'm just here for the riot, ESPN 30 for 30. I'll put the link to the link in the bio on how you can watch it. There's an article with a couple of links and blah blah blah, okay? Shout out to ESPN. It made me think a lot about again what you just said, that the first smartphone riot, and I wanted to bring this up because I feel as if there's some validity to it. Okay, was the Stanley Cup riot in 2011 the main inventor of cancel culture?
Ooh, that's I'm not
Yeah,
quite sure about that, to be honest. It's an interesting point though. Um, I think the point they made in the documentary was more sound, right? Like back in the old days when maybe law enforcement wasn't keeping up with prosecuting people, it went back to like public shaming, right? Like
yeah,
public shaming, and basically exiling people from your community was kind of the main way to punish people when the law wasn't stepping in, and you absolutely saw that here. And I think towards the end of the doc, it's pretty much everyone who was involved with the riot who was interviewed talked about how being exiled from the community, being bullied
mhm,
online, being bullied in person,
yeah,
being labeled as a rider like that. The mental trauma of that was way more,
yeah,
way tougher than just having like 2 months of house arrest. I think pretty much everyone there got 2 months of house arrest. Like, come on,
yeah.
man. Like we all had 8 months of house arrest during COVID. I mean, that's an effing joke.
That's
So
nothing. Okay, so powerful point, right? Because at the very end of the documentary, and I don't know if we're gonna spoil too much. Me and Trevor are talking about this for the first time. If we ruin it for you, dude, that doesn't make any sense because you're a Canucks fan. It's already ruined, okay? Trust me, okay? You felt the worst out of this situation, straight up. But at the end of the documentary, one of the dudes, the main dude, I feel as if he's one of the like the faces of the riot, right? I think his quote unquote name was Dylan. He talked about how he got a bigger punishment from the people online and from, again, his haters than he did law enforcement. And that's probably a big reason why this will happen again. You get what I'm saying? If they allow the people on the streets. But more on that in like 20 minutes. Okay. Can we just talk about some other things? And you brought it up again, the online shaming and how much it hurt and blah, blah, blah. There was another quote from one of the ladies on there saying how, I'm paraphrasing just a bit, but not a lot. She felt as if what she experienced online was way worse than the participation of some of the people who were in the riot, right? Like that's how she used that as a comparison to say, yo, yeah, what we did was bad, but what we experienced online was worse. And to that, I gotta say, come on, people could have died in that riot. There's a fine line when it's that rowdy down there that the worst of the worst could happen. And the Vancouver Canucks and their fan base and some riders have done that twice. And you know how they say the whole thing, like the third time's the charm. You know what I'm saying? The next time this happens, based on how violent these things get and how rowdy they get and how uncontrollable they get, like, dude, ironically, you're playing with fire. Somebody's gonna get really hurt. And through 2 times of this happening, I feel as if the death toll might be at 0, right? I might be wrong on that.
yeah.
It might be wrong on that, but guys, I know again the hate that people receive online, and we live at a different time in 2024 and all this jazz. Like, yeah, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. That quote is so irrelevant now. Okay, words do hurt a lot of people. At the end of the day, though, when you're physically in the moment participating in a riot that again involves the explosion of cars and just anger and spontaneous fights, like at any given point, somebody can bang their head against the ground. You know what I'm saying? At any given point, something can just explode and hit somebody in the face, and boom, bam, it's over. Over what? Yeah. Again, that quote kind of bugged me because, again, watching that last night, for somebody who is so in love with Vancouver and its people and its neighbors, I say it all the time. Like, yo, if you want to take care of the world, let's take care of our neighbors. I really do appreciate my neighbors. Like, my strangers around me, they my people. That hurt. It hurt watching that.
Yeah, 100%. And Kyle, maybe on the other side, let's get into maybe some critiques about the documentary. Because you're kind of alluding to some things that actually, I thought were maybe critiques about the documentary that I maybe would have liked to see something different. So let's touch on that on the other side. Let's touch on your 2011 story, but I kind of spoiled mine early on. But I want to hear about where you were on June 15th of 2011. Cool. We'll touch on that on the other side again. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. We'll get back more into the hockey talk tomorrow, okay? But right now we got to let our feelings out, okay? And reminisce, okay? So let's get to that on the other side. But before we do that, let's show to our friends over at FanDuel. All right, you know the deal. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, and more. And guess what? You can bet on it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Oh yeah, baby. And for the Stanley Cup Finals, okay? I mean, there's bets galore here, okay? You can bet on anything from like Sergei Bobrovsky recording at least 25 saves in every game. That $10 bet would pay you $120. Okay, game time goal scored in the last 30 seconds of any game. A $10 bet would pay you almost $100. And there's everything from odds for the series, odds for game 2, and more. Again, that game takes place tonight, baby. Okay, so what if you're betting on the game? Make sure you do so on FanDuel. And oh, by the way, the Edmonton Oilers are underdogs once again. The odds makers at FanDuel saying that Oilers are going to go down 2 buzz, which I'm down for. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you want to do betting wise, make sure you go do it on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sport.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about something so tragic, yo. We some lame people. You know what we should be doing today, Trevor? And myself, Kyle, we should be talking about Elias Lindholm, right? Apparently not liking $7 million. Anyways, more on that tomorrow. Again, Begsy Bowen talking about the documentary, the 30 for 30 on the Stanley Cup riots in 2011. Link in the bio to find out more about that. I feel as if you have to watch this if you're a Canucks fan. You kind of have to. Straight up. If I was 22, I wouldn't be able to watch this. But since I'm 31 and a half years old and a wise man, it was easier for me to do so. Man, oh man. We talked about your wife's emotions watching it, but touch more on yours. You're more Canadian than I am. You're a man, okay? You're a hard man. You're a real man. I'm just the soft little Hindu over here. But did you feel a little hurt as well watching this, or any of those feelings coming up?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I'll tell you my Game 7 story. It's not down there stealing condoms like you alluded to. Although if I was stealing something, that might have been what I was going to be because hey, you don't want to be popping no kids too early.
Yeah.
So I watched it. I watched Game 7 at home with my parents. Obviously, the Canucks did not win. So, I watched a bit of the Cup celebration. I said, Dad, I'm taking off on a walk. I'm like, I need to get out of the house. Wow. I'm pissed off. Wow. So I ended up just walking by myself to McDonald's. I might have, participated in the green. It's what I do back in those days.
No, because you're 18. I'm laughing because you're 17 at the time.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because you're 17 and you're just so emotional that you walk to McDonald's in the middle of the night.
Well, it wasn't even the middle of the night. It was probably 8 or 9 p.m.
Okay,
it was still light out.
Yeah.
I think I spoke to Sad Joy and walked to McDonald's. And then at McDonald's, I see on the TVs at the cities, everyone's riding. And I'm like, I'm like, you got to be effing kidding me. I was just like, I was so choked. And it got me thinking too, like, if I was downtown, would I have succumbed to mob mentality? Because look at some of the people interviewed. They were exactly our age. Like that Dylan guy would have been the exact same age as us at the time, 17. So it got me thinking, like, would I participate? But I'm too much of a diehard fan, See, being a casual fan, and I was a bit of a little shite when I was growing up. I could see like wanting to cause a bit of a ruckus, but for that to happen after a hockey game, to me, like I know for me personally, there's no way I would have done it because I love the Canucks too much. But maybe as a casual fan, I don't know. You could see you getting sucked up in mob mentality, but I'll say this: one of the other interesting things that I saw in that doc was, again, most people just seem to get swept up in the mob mentality, like, oh yeah, Brandon Carr, oh yeah. And then they interviewed the guy who got charged for riding in '94, who was like, yeah, I was drunk, I smoked some weed, I was on LSD at the time.
Yeah. He was so honest. He was so
yeah,
honest.
exactly. So I don't know. Obviously, people were drinking downtown, but I feel like the guy in '94, it's like, okay, yeah, you certainly put enough in your body where it's like, yeah, you can see you doing some dumb stuff.
The dude from '94 was just so accountable, It's like,
Yeah.
it was on me. It was on me. Again, different world, different time. He's not experiencing the online shaming, the online backlash. So much psychology driven into, again, the 90 minutes of this documentary, the 90-minute nightmare that was I'm Just Here for a Riot. Again, link in the bio for more on that. Trevor, man, just, somebody put it in the comments. I think it was Ryan. One love to Ryan. One love to the YouTube people. One love to all the podcast people. But Ryan talked about this right here, okay? He's saying that the riot distracted me from the Canucks losing the cup. And watching this made me bring up this point, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's not that sad because at the end of the day, the Canucks lost, right? I'm not at a point in my life where I'm going to hold on to those memories so closely because I want to win. I want to be a champion, okay? We're talking about professional sports. I want to win a ring, and then I'll brag about it. That all being said, there is a bit of a disconnect from me to that team because of the riot. There's got to be because, again, on top of losing a Game 7, our fan base forever is going to be known for being rioters, for being absolutely embarrassing. I know that's a dark thing to say. I'm the guy with the West Coast bias in my blood, okay? I look out for the people every day. But that is just the truth. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. Dude, it's true. We did it twice, and I hold such a grudge against that time in my life. Even though I didn't riot, even though I wasn't down there, I'm not in a place to say that those people haven't been forgiven because I forgive them. It's all good. Dude, again, nobody died. It is what it is. Shit happens, okay? But at the same time, I've definitely lost again, I feel as if some core memories because of the riot, because I don't really want to get close to 2011 often. And a lot of that has to do with losing Game 7, but at the same time, a lot of that also has to do with burning down the city and seeing Canucks fans in Canucks jerseys doing that.
Yeah, like I said, it was an incredibly painful time, and I still stand by that. The people riding weren't true fans. Now, one thing I still don't know the answer to is, and Mike Gillis even said this after the Canucks lost in 2011. Would there have been a riot, win or lose? And I've gone back and forth in this. I've honestly, for the most part of the past 13 years, always told myself, yes, there still would have been a riot because like people went down there with Molotov cocktails and eyewear protection. Like there were some people there to cause trouble. But you look at 2010, right? And the Canada celebration, there wasn't a riot then. For any of the other Canucks games in that final, there wasn't a riot then. So I'm not convinced there would have been a riot if they won, but I'm kind of curious on your take with that.
Yeah, so Andrew had this comment as well, right? I went to the gold medal celebration back in 2010 again in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, and he was seeing how crazy it was for all the positive reasons, right? Like the jubilation, the victory led to 99.9% more positivity over drunk buffoonery, right? And maybe winning does that because time in and time out, the best of the best always say this, right? Winning fixes everything. It does. It does. And a big part of me wants to think 100% without a doubt that if we won that game, the love would have defeated the anger because I have a lot of faith in humanity. But I also think about the fact how going into that day, the fact that it was broadcasted to millions that this could happen allows that seed to just, sprout a bit. And it goes back to the point I made 12 minutes ago about everything that I just saw yesterday proves that I don't know. Am I right? I think I'm right. Vancouver and its people won't have watch parties during the Stanley Cup Finals. Because when we get closer to that, dumbasses like you and I, or maybe just me, and some, other people who have microphones or, I don't know, a keyboard will bring it up. Because, like it or not, those photos, those moments, those visuals to the general public, to the viewers, bro, that's way larger than an ice hockey game and a trophy awarded after an ice hockey game. Because you're talking about human life, human psychology, possible injury, and buffoonery. Like, it's one of the dumbest things ever. I mean, we're talking about people burning the city down and using that card, right? Using that trump card or whatever they say when a team loses a hockey game, when in reality, those things only tend to happen when it's quote unquote something political or something humanitarian. And this happened post losing an ice hockey game. We're not talking about the Super Bowl. We're not talking about the NBA final. I know it's in Canada, but I'm just saying, like, globally, again, a lot of people look at Vancouver and know Vancouver as beautiful and all that jazz, but also a place where the people riot over a hockey game. Like, Canucks fans are just tainted with that forever. So again, long-winded answer, but what do you have to say about that? Like, how can you trust this not happening again when it's going to be talked about when the Canucks are back in the finals? It's going to be brought up no matter what. You're not just talking about game plans and who's in. Like, unless the police are sending an email to every single person in Vancouver who makes content or has conversation around the Vancouver Canucks and says, yo, we're going to put you in jail for 25 years if you bring up the word riot or display, it feels like it's going to happen again.
Yeah, you know what? I ripped the city of Vancouver earlier in this playoff run because the Canucks were the only one of 16 teams who didn't have an outdoor viewing party in round one. And I still think it's an embarrassment because I still think it can be done properly. And maybe I'm delusional, I'm just Trevor Beggs here on Locked On Canucks. You're Canucks every day. But, I think if you have proper security checkpoints, it can be done properly. Now, will the city of Vancouver actually do it? Not under Ken Sim, I don't think so, because he's already shown that he doesn't want to do it.
He's been in two
I
of
think
them.
it's really, yeah, exactly. Maybe Ken Sim was down there riding. Maybe he knows.
No, he was in '94. Like, you didn't see the visual, like when they brought up the '94 riot. Like, he was one of, like, I wouldn't say the junior cops, but he was like in the front lines. Whereas in 2011 he was probably so he's been to both.
Interesting. Yeah, there you go.
Protecting the public.
Yeah, I guess he's got a bit of a bias then, right? He doesn't want to see his people go through that because that's, even the doc, the police chief said, it's one of the scariest things he's gone through, right? It's like not many things scare me on the job. He's like, that was different. And come on, you're outnumbered to like 100-1, right? Like, what did they say? There's 985 cops by the end of the riots and 100,000 people downtown. 400 cops when the riots first started. Like, it's a scary atmosphere. But to answer your question, Kyle, yeah, I think the city of Vancouver, it's again, until we win a cup and can celebrate properly, it's always going to weigh out, that's for sure. And we're always going to be the butt of jokes. Let's wrap this up with final thoughts on the doc on the other side, favorite parts, critiques, and Kyle, I still want to hear your story from June 15th, 2011. All that on the other side. No ad read from me. It's just a quick break here. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day.
People, we back doing this, and that's reviewing. I'm just here for the riot. ESPN 30 for 30, talking about the Stanley Cup riot from 2011. Link in the bio. So, find a path to watch it. Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bowen. Again, doing this on a Monday, June the 10th. People may want to, keep hearing about Jake Gensel and Lindholm and Zadorov and Dakota Joshua wanting more money than we think and all this stuff. But man, oh man, we have so much time for assumption. And day in and day out, Locked On Canucks will be feelings first. Okay? All feelings, no facts all the time here on Locked On Canucks. Anyways, here are the facts, okay? Trevor Beggs wanting to know my Game 7 story of 2011. Remember that Trevor and I didn't start our friendship until 3 months after the riot, okay? We didn't go to high school together. We met on the first day of school in college/university, One Love to Kwantland. Trevor, my story is kind of similar to yours, but I wasn't with my family because I'm a fan first. I know it sucks. I'm dark. I was young and dumb, but I was watching that game with my brothers who I watched most of the Canucks games with. So my band, like my crew, being with the people. There was no way I was going downtown to watch that game on a big screen, even though I did that a couple times during that series and whatnot. I wasn't going to do that for Game 7, not the biggest game of my life. Why? Because I need my attention on the screen. You already know it's hard to get a seat there. It's hard to get a good view. I needed a good view of this because it was the biggest game of my life, and to this day, it's still up there, the biggest game of my life. I watched it with my people, my friends. We lost. We got our ass kicked. I get a text and a call from my mom and dad right away. They tell me, yo, are you downtown? They're scared. Don't go downtown, all this stuff. I let them know I'm not in downtown. I'm in Surrey. And after I got off the phone with them and the dust settled and I realized that, again, this wasn't a nightmare and we just lost in Game 7, I did the same thing as you. I walked home. You know how far I lived from all my friends? You know how I lived like 40 minutes away from all my friends. I didn't want to switch high schools when my parents moved. Just the truth. And I walked home in my Canucks jersey. This was a different time in life. Okay? I don't even know if I had headphones on me. I just walked home in silence. So I feel as if this is a good time to point out the reality, right? That just goes to show you that everything happens for a reason. And the fact that you did the same thing as I did and we met 3 months later goes to show you that, bro, we best friends for life, man. That's what happened. That's what we found out through talking about this documentary, okay? We best friends for life. Hit the round of applause button, okay? There you go, man. Unreal. Trevor, little did you know that, we signed a contract on the same day without even knowing each other when that happened after we lost. So are you happy that the Canucks lost? Because maybe if the Canucks lost, we're not friends.
Oh man, when I traded a Canucks Cup for my friendship with you, absolutely. Are you kidding me, man?
Okay.
Let's go.
That's good. Loyal to the team. I like it.
Oh man, that's too funny. Look, I want to say this. One of my, I guess, I thought overall the doc was really well done. One of my main critiques with the doc was actually, and maybe I'm cold-hearted, I actually felt like they focused a bit too much on the rioters. Like I kind of wanted to hear about, maybe some more cops that were involved or business owners who were affected. I felt they really try to hammer home the point of like, let's humanize the rioters, which they did. But I felt like there was almost too much of that. I kind of wanted to hear, like, even at the end, a bit more of like, how many people were arrested, like some more of the fallout. Whereas I feel like, again, there's just so much attention focused on like those 5 or 6 rioters who were charged, a couple of who didn't want to show their faces. So I was like, that was my only critique with it. I kind of wanted to be a bit more well-rounded. I thought it was just, too much on the rioters for a good chunk of the doc, in my opinion.
Bro, the last sentence of the documentary was, again, one of the most famous rioters. What did he say? He's like,
would you do it?
Yeah, no, he's like, I did something stupid and I effed up and blah, blah, blah. But have you ever done anything bad before? And the thing just ended. Come on, bro. Come on, man. Trying to make me feel guilty. You dude, like, Canucks fans forever, man. Like, even when we win a Stanley Cup, we're going to be Stanley Cup champions and riders at the same time, even if we don't ride in our third time. Like, no, just because it happened twice and it's that stain. It's like that joke that other fan bases can use, and there's nothing we can say about it. You can't even defend it. You can't defend it. It's maybe okay. So your critique was like, you also added like, oh, you wish there was more statistics around the number of arrests and maybe like even the amount of money it costs to repair all that. Little things like that. It would have added a lot of substance, especially at the end of it. I don't know how they didn't do that. It would have taken 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree.
Straight up, it would have added a lot. But maybe they didn't do it, especially on the arrest side of things and the fines and arrests and all that jazz, because they were underwhelming. Like, maybe they caught a lot of people, but again, it's like, okay, 18 hours probation, or okay, pick up some garbage for 20 days. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it wasn't quote unquote sexy enough in comparison to all the damage. And again, if you watch this documentary again, like, look at the music that was playing. It was scary, dude. It was some Batman stuff, or a mix of Batman and Saw. What? Did I say Batman and Saw? I'm emotional, okay? I'm emotional.
So, I mean, for those interested, because I did go look it up after the fact, I mean, reports suggest that 301 people total were charged, and 887 charges were laid in total. So it is, again, one of the biggest sports riots of the 21st century. And, Andrew made the comment too, other countries around the world are rioting about tyranny and starvation and oppression. So obviously riding over a lost hockey game is pretty disappointing. But it got me thinking about like what other sports riots have happened in the kind of like the past 10, 20 years. And there was a huge riot in Egypt over a soccer game in 2012 where 79 people were killed. And obviously, I think there's some political aspects to that as well. But still, 79 people died because of a sports riot. I mean, that's really blew my mind. After the here's an example of a team winning and rioting. So after the 2014 World Series, where the San Francisco Giants beat the Kansas City Royals, San Francisco fans vandalized buses and cars, shattered windows of businesses. 2 people were shot. 1 person was stabbed. A police officer was left in critical condition, and 40 arrests were made. So still the arrests pale in comparison to what happened in 2011, but still an example of a sports riot resulting in some big injuries. And again, I'll bring up another one, and this is football, which didn't surprise people. The real football, I should say, not American football. During the Euro 2020 final between Italy and England, riots broke out at Wembley Stadium shortly after kickoff. 86 people were arrested by police that day, and then more charges came after the fact. So that's one of the riots that, again, England soccer fans have a rep, and they kind of live up to that one too. Much like now, Vancouver Canucks fans have a rep because of those idiots who were rioting on June 15, 2011. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the doc, again, did a good job of humanizing where rioters made mistakes and their lives now and how it affected them. But Matt, you make a mistake like that, you got to live with the repercussions, and I'm sure like the online hate goes too far, like to kill yourself, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't be doing that. But you make a mistake like that, even as a young chap, some life lessons are hard, I think Kyle, you and I learn life lessons the hard way too sometimes. And those life lessons are hard. So I don't know. It did do a job humanizing them, but I wasn't feeling that sympathetic, if you know what I mean, because I'm a diehard Canucks fan. Okay. Come on.
Maybe I didn't feel as empathetic or sympathetic, whatever the word is. Mainly because, again, consciously I've forgiven them, but at the end of the day, I do get annoyed when the comparison to online hate is the same as any sort of physical potential harm. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not trying to put this is just a way of my life. Realism in digital life. Like, I don't put those things on the same scale. I cannot do it. I'm not giving the robots that much power. You know what I'm saying? Can never do that. There is a difference. And Trevor, you know what you said 4 minutes ago about that one riot that might have caused 79 deaths? Is that what you said? Like, okay, again, that didn't happen in Vancouver over 2 riots, but it's a fine line, people. It's a fine line. Like, the universe and whatever was looking after Vancouver when all that was happening, because you're telling me nobody banged their head against the ground? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's how fine it is. Like, and before you know it, a life is lost. And that is just scary, man. Overall ratings, before we get out of here, man, I'm going to give it a, hey, I got West Coast bias, baby. I know there's a lot of Vancouver influence on here. I haven't looked into the directors and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure they might be from Vancouver. I'm looking out for my people, man. 10 out of 10. Go watch it. Link in the bio.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good overall. But I guess I don't know, man. Maybe I'm an old man. I want a bit more structure to it. But yeah, it definitely had me emotionally feeling away for sure. And last thing I'll say before I get out of here, just looking at other sports riots. People don't mention this because they weren't as big, but Montreal has recorded 5 riots. The Montreal Canadiens related to their hockey team, with the last 2 2010 coming after a semifinals win in 2010 and a first round win over the Boston Bruins in 2008. Apparently, there was some Edmonton riots in 2006 after they beat the Sharks in the Western Conference Finals as well. So again, not as big as Vancouver, but just saying, we're not the only fans rioted out there. Okay, and again, it's not real Canucks fans, anyways.
Oh man. Yeah, we definitely took it to another level, though. I'm telling you, man, that stuff was crazy, dude. It looked like a movie, bro. Again, I thought I was going to get a different type of answer when I asked you about your experience watching it with your wife, because you told me that she experienced a new version of you when watching playoff games with you this year, right? Because she hasn't seen that side of you because the Canucks haven't been in the dance for a long time, and she just started living with you in the last 5-7 years or whatever, right? But the fact that she was down there completely blew my mind. And now I'm looking forward to watching this with my girl. Just like,
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is if you are in Vancouver and you're a Canucks fan and you have friends who don't give a ish about the hockey, just like if you want something to do and connect over, like have a movie night, man. Get some popcorn going. Don't make chicken wings that night though, man. No chicken wings and popcorn. That's not a good mix if you do the math, right? You get what I'm saying? Because your hands get dirty unless you're eating chicken wings with forks. Yeah, no chicken wings and popcorn, but have a movie night and watch this. Anyways, Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks. Hit the like button, subscribe. Don't worry, people. Tomorrow we'll talk about Lindholm denying a $7 million. Who cares? We got a lot of time to talk about this stuff, okay? We're still 21 days away. What do we know? Absolutely nothing. But we'll still talk about it. Beggsy, sign us out.
Kyle, by the way, how old was your girl when the riots happened? Just kidding. Don't answer that question.
No.
Shout out to the shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who joined us on the live show on YouTube. Wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening, we appreciate the heck out of you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. More Canucks-related talk in the present coming up this week. What should they do with Mikheyev? What's going to happen with Lindholm? And oh yeah, Jake Gensel, is he the number one target for this team? And should he be the number one target for this team? All that coming up this week. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bowen. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace, 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 peace.